Hello and welcome to another episode of the Ohio Huntsman podcast with your hosts Jason, Jacob, and Jeff. And I want to start off today by talking about our sponsor. Our sponsor is Monster Whitetail Grub. They are an Ohio deer feed company, so it's an Ohio-based company that tries to source all of their products, even down to the packaging, from Ohio, which is really cool. I really like that. And aside from that, they make a really good deer feed product. So they have a high-protein feed with it's actually got mineral mixed in. They've got flavored corn, and they have just straight mineral. So got all the bases covered. Now's a great time to be not only getting your mineral out for antler development, but getting some feed out because you're going to have fawns dropping, does lactating, and they're going to need the nutrition. So if you're interested in that, there'll be a link in the show notes to Monster Whitetail Grub's Facebook page. That's the best way to kind of reach out to them, get a hold of them, and try some of their product. So today, we're going to kind of rebroadcast one of our episodes from earlier. So we've got a lot more followers now, and I think this will be a good way for some of the new followers to kind of get to know us, get to know some of our background. So we did an episode a while back on some of our favorite hunting stories. And so we're just going to kind of rehash those hunting stories as a way for a lot of our new listeners to get to know us and hear some of our background and sort of how we were brought up and, you know, hopefully get to know some of our personality a little bit. So without further ado, we're going to get into the episode. So, who wants to start?
I'll start.
Jeff's going to start. All right.
So, going to tell about my first deer. Figure that's a good story to tell.
That's a good place to start.
I was about 11 years old. It was my second deer season.
Okay.
I had gone out opening day and then the Tuesday of regular gun season the previous year. Watched my dad shoot a deer, and he shot a doe, and I attempted to shoot its fawn opening day of my first season, and I missed, but that happened. So then second year of hunting.
So that one, like, what was it? It was a 1, 2, 3 we're going to shoot, or it was...
No, that one, he shot the doe, and it ran, maybe 10 yards.
And the fawn came and tried to suckle on it and
fell
tried
over
to shoot it.
And so the fawn ran off with the gunshot, but then ran off, then kind of saw that mom was still back here, so she came
back.
Trotting back. I mean, she didn't run off, stop. She just ran off, saw mom was still back here, so she just came trotting back, and dad said, all right, it's your turn. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Shoot it. So I tried.
What were you shooting?
I was shooting a Savage single shot, over under, 22 mag, 20 gauge.
Okay.
And
that was a smooth bore, so you were just shooting regular
smooth bore
rifled slugs?
Rifled slug, yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I shot once, missed, and it ran off.
It was gone at that point.
Yeah. So, but I was just happy to have been in the woods.
Right.
And, me and dad as a team, we shot one.
Right.
We
got one. Yep.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
So the following year was the first year that they had youth gun season.
Okay.
So we all pile out of the cabin. It's me and dad and another friend of ours and his 2 kids. And we go down the road, and me and dad go up the hill. And this was in southern Ohio. It was a big hill.
Right.
And we went to my dad's hunting spot. He has a tree. We hunt from the ground. He has a tree that he went to every opening day for years.
Years, yeah.
So we went up to his hunting spot, and it was cold that day. But we're standing there. It's well into daylight. It's probably 10 o'clock in the morning, considering heading back to the cabin. And then a long ways away, maybe 100 yards away, I spot a deer.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember pointing at it and saying, "Dad, a deer." And Dad rips my arm down beside me, and says, "Put your arm down."
Yeah.
And so then this deer, works its way in. It was just a button buck, but, to me, it was awesome. It was a deer. It was a deer.
Right.
I was an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah, at that point, any deer is exciting.
Yeah. So it, kind of works its way closer, and it gets to about 75 yards and starts to turn to go away.
Mm-hmm.
So Dad tells me to shoot, and I shoot, and Dad says, "I think you got it," but it ran off. So we go over to, where I had shot it at,
Yeah.
and we're not finding any blood. My dad's saying, "Do you see any blood? Do you see anything?" It's like, "No, I don't see any blood."
Side note here, our dad's colorblind, so he has a hard time seeing red.
Right.
So that's why Jeff made the comment about, asking Jeff if he's seen any blood.
Right. Yeah. He was relying on me to if there was a small amount of blood to see it. And I said, "No, I don't see any blood, but there's a lot of hair." And he said, "Okay, well, we'll start walking the way that it went." And I think by this time, a few steps following the way it went, I think my dad had already spotted the deer dead.
Oh, okay.
But he was letting me track it. And I walked straight up, like I was probably only 10 feet at the most away from it before I noticed it.
Yeah.
And another really interesting thing about this deer was when we got to it, it had 2 holes in the same side. That slug had went in, obviously bounced off of a rib or something, and came back out the same side.
Really?
Yeah. Never had anything like that happen again. But yeah, that deer had 2 holes. It was standing broadside. I shot it a little further back than I probably should have. I got, like the back of the lungs.
Uh-huh.
And it had a second hole coming out of it by the hind leg.
Really?
So yeah,
I'd never heard that story.
Yeah, it had 2 holes on the same side. Because Dad said, "I don't know how this thing died. Like, you gut shot it, like."
Yeah.
And when we actually pulled the skin off, it was like, "Oh no, right here is where you shot it."
Yeah.
And it had somehow ricocheted around and came back out of the deer on the same side. Have no idea how it happened.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
May never see that again.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So that's a good place to start. Jake, do you have a story in mind, or?
Yeah, I can tell my story. I guess it's similar. First deer, probably story starts the same way, where we pour out of the cabin and walk up the hill with Dad. This year, I don't know if you were there or not. I don't think you were there
Probably
yet.
not.
I don't believe so.
I think your second year was my first year.
Okay.
And I don't think Dad had any intention my first year of letting me shoot, because I was far younger than you guys were when you started.
Okay.
hunting.
Yeah, so it was my first gun season down at the cabin, which when our dad was younger, there was a pretty good group of guys that went down there. There was a lot of guys that hung out at the cabin. It's since kind of dwindled off, and now it's starting to build back up as we're getting older and kind of starting to get our friends and family into it. But there was kind of a downtime when we were young and the older guys were getting older and people stopped coming down. But my first year down there, we do the guys used to do I don't want to say a gambling per se, but opening day, everyone would put like $5 in or something. I don't even know the dollar amount for the biggest buck.
Yeah.
And if no one shot a buck, it was the biggest bodied doe. So I was a kid. I don't remember how old I even was, 12, 13, somewhere in that range. I didn't have any money. I didn't even know about this. So Dad ponied up for all of us. Him, me, Jason, you. He put his, whatever, $5 for each of us in the pot.
Yeah.
And we go out in the woods, and Dad set me up on a tree. And, he had done all the scouting work and everything. He just basically said, sit here. If you see a deer, shoot it. So the tree had like a Y in it. It was like perfect for me. It was like in my mind, because I was, I'm first time I'm in the woods. So I'm like, as soon as it gets daylight, I'm moving around and like, I can stand behind this tree and prop my gun up and use this as a rest. Right. And I was just living it, So then it gets cold and the sun comes up and you get that urge to take a nap. So I sat down and fell asleep. So next thing I know, I wake up to a deer, probably can't be more than 10 yards from me, stomping.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Woke me up. It's, snorting and stomping, trying to get me to move to figure out what I am.
Right.
Scared the living daylights out of me. I had never seen a deer like that
close,
before.
Yeah.
Right. I had never, I'd seen them in the wild per se, but nothing that close. I didn't know what that deer was going to do. Stomping its foot. I didn't know if it was coming after me or what.
Right.
So I was quite scared. Obviously, as soon as I moved, it ran away. So then once I kind of calmed down, I was on alert then. I'm like, oh, these things aren't getting close to me now. I'm going to shoot the next one. So if I remember the story about the deer filtered in from right to left, and I'm behind this tree, and I got this Y, and using the exact same gun Jeff was using, actually. It's a 22 mag, 20 gauge shotgun, over under with a scope. I put the crosshairs on this deer, pull the trigger. It was a mom and a fawn. And, I shoot it. So I think it runs away. So it's like, now what do I do? So I kind of looked around a little bit. I went down to where I shot. Nothing. Don't see any hair, blood, nothing. I'm like, I guess I missed. I don't know. It's not here. I don't see it.
Yeah.
Must have missed. Go back on stand. So then I see another deer. And this is a couple hours later, probably. I don't know. Maybe it probably seemed like a couple hours. It might have been 10 minutes for all I know. I was little. I probably thought time was. But see another deer. I shoot at it. Same thing. Came right to left. And same thing. I go down there. I see where I shot. I see the tracks. I see everything. No blood. No hair. I don't know.
Something's wrong with this gun.
Right. I can't shoot straight. I don't know. Something's not right. So then Dad came down over the hill because he heard all the shooting. And he's like, what is going on? I said, I don't know. I shot at 2 deer. Where were they? Whatever.
Right.
We go down to look. Nothing. Not seeing anything. Nothing. They were right here, I think, right around here. I wasn't very precise with where they were, which was lesson number 1 that I learned after that. So that's that. I don't know. Apparently I can't shoot straight, but the deer got away. Whatever. Right. So then it gets to be lunchtime, I think. And we're coming down out of the woods. And our dad was like, no one else got anything, I don't think. And I'm like, I shot at deer, and we're coming down out of the woods. And coming down, there was kind of like a mowed path that I don't even know what it was there. I think it might have been an old logging road or something. I don't know what the trail was.
Yeah.
But there was blood going across it that my dad saw, or maybe you saw. I don't remember.
Yeah, because I was with you at this point.
Yeah, we were all coming down out of the woods.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, what's that? So then we kind of followed that blood trail off to the left of this. We're going down the hill, and I was hunting off to the right of the path. And the blood trail goes across it off to the left. So we go off not very far. I don't know, maybe 20 yards at the most. And dead deer. So it's like, oh, yeah, I told you I shot that deer. I knew I killed it. So at this point, we were gutting, Dad's teaching me how to gut it and showing me stuff, and that's all fine. And then for some reason, I don't know exactly the logistics of it, but he looked down the hill, maybe 20, 30 yards down the hill. And he sees another.
Like a white belly,
belly.
I remember.
Yeah, and he goes, what is that? I said, oh, that's my other deer I shot. So we finished the first one up, go down to the next one. I ended up hitting both those deer.
Right.
Perfect shots. I don't know. I just was looking in the wrong spot, I think, for blood and hair and that stuff. And then there was a third deer that I had shot at. So then we had to look. So we looked all over that hillside to try and find the third deer because we were sure I had hit it because I hit the first two. But I didn't. We never found it. We never saw anything.
Yeah.
So what I thought was a unsuccessful morning, turns out I had filled both of my doe tags. But kind of funny story, kind of goes with your story, Jeff. One of the one doe I shot was a large doe, and it had a fawn, not with it, but after the fact. A fawn came through and was raising a racket and wouldn't go away. I remember throwing sticks towards it to get it because it was looking for its mom that turns out was dead not far from there.
Right.
I just didn't know that. So I'm sure the fawn could smell and knew that it was around, but so the fawn just kept bleeding and, making sounds. And I'm just like, get out of here, go away. So then we go down to the cabin for lunch and whatever. And come end of opening day, we hang up the deer. No one got a buck. I got a doe, 2 does, but a big doe and then a smaller doe. And there was another guy down there who got also a bigger doe. And I just remember thinking like, oh, I don't know whose is bigger, mine or his. And I'm like, well, whatever. And we hung them both up and everyone kept saying mine was bigger. Mine's bigger, And they're like, oh, Jacobs, yours is the biggest. You win. Except this other guy, he was like, oh, no, we need to measure them. We need to check. And so he's like, we need to hang them up and make sure everything's equal and blah, blah, blah. And all I remember is when we had him hanging, his deer, the nose stuck down maybe a half inch further than mine. Whether that's the way it was hanging, I don't know. Maybe it was bigger, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
But I just remember all going out there, and one of the guys was like, you don't get it, do you? His is bigger. And I was just like, at that point, I didn't really realize it. I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe the other guy's is bigger. I don't know.
Yeah.
But come to find out, the older guys, it was my first deer. It was my first deer season. My deer could have been a lot smaller and it would have been bigger.
Right.
They were that was part of it. So that was kind of cool, but I quote unquote won the money. It wasn't, we're not talking a lot of money here. Like I said, I think everybody puts, I don't know, $5 or $10.
I think it was $5.
$5
at the time.
Yeah.
So it's probably a lot of money to me. It might have been, $20.
Yeah.
But
45, yeah.
whatever, $45 or whatever it ended up being. But so that's a lot of money to a 12-year-old. But that was kind of my first and second deer, I guess, story.
Back to back, doubleheader.
Yeah, back to back. Didn't even know.
So I have a story about, and I don't remember all the details, so it might not be a good story, but you talked about the opening day pot, right? Everybody puts money in. And I remember, the first year Dad put money in for me, and he was like, but if you win, you got to split the winnings with me because I put the money in for you, And so I don't know if this was first year, second year, whatever. I don't remember. But I remember at some point saying, I'm putting my own money in because I'm keeping the money and I'm going to shoot the biggest deer. And sure enough, I had a buck come by. And as I recall, I missed this buck. And it wasn't a huge deer or anything, but same thing. I don't think there were any other bucks shot opening day. And so I would have, regardless of the size, I would have won. And I would just remember being so mad at myself for missing that deer because I was, I'm a big man. I'm going to put my own $5 in and I'm going to win the pot, and managed to miss the deer that would have won the pot. So I guess since you guys told your first deer story, I'll tell my first deer story, and then we can tell any other stories that we want to. My first deer story probably starts before my first deer because I'm the oldest, and as I recall, I went, and I don't remember ages or like, oh, that was back in 1990. I'm just not good at that stuff. So I don't know how old I was. older than Jeff was, but I remember going down the first year, the first one of us kids to have gone down, and Dad had bought a 20 gauge 870 youth model, right? So it had the shorter stock and everything.
Were you, sorry to interrupt, was your first year in the old cabin, or was the new cabin built? I know when my first year was in the new cabin, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think that new cabin was built when we were pretty little.
Yeah.
99, according to the plywood.
96.
96, sorry,
Yeah.
according to the plywood.
I think it was
So
in
it
the
would
new
have been
cabin.
the new cabin. Okay.
But when we started, right, it was a smooth bore 870 with a field barrel with a bead. It's a 20 gauge. I'm a little kid. This gun kicks like a donkey for a little kid, and I'm using a bead, and I can't hit anything with this. Using a bead with a slug I've not tried it since, but I remember as a kid, seemed like next to impossible.
So it was just a single bead.
Yes.
You didn't have the V front, the rear sight rifle sights at all. You're
no,
just talking
those
a single
clamp-on rifle
right.
sights came later.
Okay.
And I can't hit anything. I remember practicing at home. I remember we went down, Sunday or something, before opening day. We're down at camp, and I remember, using Dad's truck as a rest to get a super steady rest. And still, and this gun's beating the crap out of me. And, I'm trying to keep it together, but, I'm choking back tears because I'm a kid. I can't hit anything. I want to impress all these guys. This gun hurts, so it was frustrating, right? I'm a kid. It's not going great. So then it's opening day. I kind of wish Dad was here to have his side of the story, yeah, because some of the details are a little foggy, but I remember just being so nervous, right? These guys are all excited. It's opening day, anybody that's been part of an opening day deer camp, there's an electricity about it. There's an excitement about it. Everybody's fired up. So we get up bright and early, and I'm nervous, man. I'm excited, but I'm nervous. And we hike up this hill, and it's a big, like you guys said, for a little kid, it's a big hill. And I don't remember all the details. I seem to remember getting up there, and now I'm all hot, and I'm excited, I'm nervous, I'm hot from hiking up there. I want to say I ended up throwing up there, because I just got myself so worked up.
Yeah, Dad says that you threw up.
And I think I ended up...
And then he says 15 minutes later, you threw up, then 15 minutes later, you said you had to poop.
Yeah.
This is what Dad says.
Yeah. And then after all of that, I'm I seem to remember, Dad packed a sandwich or something for me. It's barely cracked daylight. I'm I'm hungry. I can't... it's barely daylight. I gotta have a sandwich or something. And as I recall, we had I don't remember lasting very long. I ate all the snacks, it was it just wasn't great. No deer, not a chance, right? Nothing. But so that was kind of my... And then I want to say I took a couple years off. Did I come back? Do you guys remember? Did I go back the next year? Or did I take a year or two off after that? It was
I don't remember specifically. I don't know. I know you were there my first year.
I remember taking a few...
Honestly, I think Dad probably took you and then had such a bad experience, or you had such a bad experience. I think he probably waited to take me then. You might have went when you were, 13, 12, 13, I don't remember. And then he might not have taken me until I was at least that old. So that would give you a couple years off. You know what I mean? 2 or 3, because you're a year and a half, so 2 years off.
And then Jeff was always just an outdoorsman. He started he was a baby out there.
Yeah.
But so I want to say, because I seem to remember, if you guys listen to previous podcasts, my birthday's in November, and it's so I seem to remember using the excuse of like, well, it's all after Thanksgiving. Like I would have just had my birthday. I think I'm going to hang out here and play with my new toys and stuff, like something to that effect. Like, and so I want to say I took a year
or two
probably, off. Yeah. But then then when I did go back down, by this point we had those clamp-on rifle sights. Basically, if you've not seen these, they're standard rifle sights, but they clamp on to the ventilated rib of a field barrel shotgun. So I don't know, Dad discovered these things at the store or something, I don't know, but I remember that made all the difference. Like I'm a few years older now, I can hit something where things are much better now. I'm ready to deer hunt now. So at this point, we go up, I'm assuming, Jeff, it's the same area for you. I know it's real close to Jacob's first deer. Dad puts me on, we go up kind of on top of this ridge, and it's kind of like an open oak flat up there. And so he takes me and puts me on the left side of this ridge, as you're coming up. He's going to go over the right side, and here's a tree, hang out. I seem to remember I had, we cleared all the leaves around the tree. I seem to remember doing a lot of walking around the tree and just fooling around trying to kill time. That may have been the time, I want to say it was. I was bored. I got my knife out. I told this story before on the podcast. I got my knife out and was scratching the tree up like it's a bear sign down there, But at some point, sort of late morning, down below me, 2 does pop out. And they're, I don't know, probably 50 yards away, I'd say, down below me. I thought, oh my gosh, there's a deer. So bring my gun up, doing, safety off. Here we go. Bang! The deer just stand there. Shuck another shell in. Bang! And at that, I think the first deer ran off. The other one was still there. Put my third shell in, my last shell, and I remember, like, this is my last chance. I got to make this one count. And now the first deer is gone. I shoot at the second deer, and it falls down. And it kind of let out a bellow, and I remember it kind of rolled off the hill to where I couldn't see it. Rolled off the bank or whatever, down even farther down the hill to where I couldn't see it. And I remember when Dad dropped me off, he said, if you shoot, just stay here, and I'll hear you shoot, and I'll come over. Well, I couldn't stay there.
Ain't no way.
So, because I saw this thing fall down, right? But it rolled off the hill. I got to go see. So I remember walking down, and, just over the bank, there's this deer. And then I'm like, well, I don't know what to do now. So as I'm coming back up the hill, I remember looking up and seeing Dad coming over, and, did you get it? I was like, yeah, it's right down here. And that was that. We took care of the deer, got it field dressed and everything. And in my head, like, we're on the side of this hill. We need to drag it down this hill and out to the road. But I'm a kid. I don't really know the lay of the land. And Dad's telling me, no, we got to drag it up this hill. And I do remember thinking, why on earth are we dragging this deer uphill? This thing's heavy. This is hard. We can just drag it downhill.
Yeah. You can see the road from there.
Yeah, but now knowing, like, it would have been miserable to drag it through this bottom. Yeah, it's just thick nastiness.
Just briars.
Yeah. That would have been a mistake to drag it downhill there. But I remember having that thought, like, why are we working so hard to drag this uphill? But yeah, so that's my first deer story. Do you guys have other stories you want to tell?
I have a story that I always like to think back on.
Yeah.
This is not a deer hunting story. This is a squirrel hunting story.
Okay.
So I'm probably about 13, 14. And
so this would have been after your first deer.
yeah, this was after my first deer.
Okay.
But me, Dad, and a buddy of ours down there, we're going up in the woods to go squirrel hunting. And, we start walking up this hill, and there's a ravine. We're walking up one side of the ravine, and then across the other side of the hill, like you can see the other side.
Yeah.
And it's probably 40 yards, 50 yards the other side. Well, we see a squirrel over there. So we decide we're going to shoot it. Well, we all, it's 3 guys, have our guns loaded up, loaded for bear, man. I had a bolt action 20 gauge that Dad had borrowed from someone.
Oh, I was going to say, I didn't know anything about a bolt action 20 gauge.
Yeah, Dad had borrowed it.
Okay.
I used that to hunt for a few years. I don't know, it was supposed to be good for a kid. I think it might have been a youth model.
Oh, okay.
So I had this bolt action, and I think it could hold like 12 rounds, 12 20 gauge shells.
Wow.
But we just start unloading at the squirrel, and it's at a distance, it's a little beyond our range. But this squirrel's running, and we can see clearly, it can't hide from us.
Right.
And it's trying to go up trees, and we're shooting and knocking it out of trees, and just, it sounded like a war zone. And we probably shot at least 20 times at this squirrel.
Oh, really?
It was just, yeah.
Yeah.
But eventually, we lose sight of it. So then we go over there, and we're blood tracking the squirrel. Like, we have a blood trail, and we're tracking it. And eventually, we follow the blood trail, and it goes up a tree and into a hole in the tree.
Oh.
So the squirrel got away on us.
Oh, man.
But I still remember that and just think back and laugh because, it was just a squirrel.
Yeah.
And, we were just going to town. Just kept shooting. Just boom, 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 boom. And this squirrel's, just running for dear life.
Yeah.
It gets up a tree. We shoot and, knock the branch off. And it's falling to the ground.
Yeah.
And, it was a blast. But, all over just a little squirrel.
Yeah. That reminds me of a story. So this will be probably my earliest hunting memory. I couldn't even tell you where we were, but Dad and I were rabbit hunting. I don't even know if I had a gun. Dad might have just brought me along to kick brush piles and try to chase squirrels out for him. I don't remember. But I remember this rabbit gets shot and it wasn't dead. And I just remember Dad walked up to this rabbit. No joke. He just karate chops it in the back and breaks its back and kills it. And I'm a kid, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, my dad is awesome. And that's just one of those things that's stuck in my brain all these years. But yeah, I don't know how old I was. It was probably one of those things that to Dad was like so insignificant.
Right.
He may not even remember it, but I know as a kid it was like, oh, he just karate chopped a rabbit. So, did I say squirrel earlier?
You said chase squirrels.
You said you're kicking brush to chase squirrels out.
I got my story mixed up. We were rabbit hunting. I apologize. Yeah. Rabbit hunting. He karate chopped a rabbit.
So I have a story similar to that one. My first rabbit I ever got, me and Dad were out squirrel hunting. And, we're walking, and I, say, oh, Dad, there's a rabbit, and, it's only 10 feet away from us.
Right.
Probably less than that, like close. And it's just sitting in a bush, like kind of hunkered down.
Yeah.
And Dad says, it's rabbit season, shoot it. So I shoot this thing, and it was pretty close to like point blank range.
Right.
I mean, it was close. And I just blow it up,
Yeah.
And Dad was like, well, I think you got it. Like, it just, I mean, it was close.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, I blew it up.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's like, well, I think you got it.
Yeah.
Good eye.
Right.
And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he takes this bloody rabbit.
Yeah.
And I have like an upland vest that he has that has the pouches on the back.
Right. Yeah.
And he,
small game vest or whatever. Yeah.
puts this rabbit like in the back pouch. And then, we go on hunting, and throughout the day, like I can just feel the blood of this rabbit soaking into like my back. And like, I didn't know any, like I thought that, oh, okay, that's just part of it, I guess.
Part of it, yeah.
And, when we get done, I take it off, and you have this huge blood spot on my back. And Dad's like, what, you just let that thing bleed on you? And it's like, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah.
Oh,
that's funny.
Yeah.
And now, come to find out, you're deathly allergic to rabbit blood.
Yeah, and that's what makes that story even funnier. Yeah, is that I'm allergic. I'm very allergic to rabbit blood, and yeah, I don't remember breaking out that time.
Yeah.
With any sort of rash, but
yeah, you almost missed opening day that one year because you were all went on a Thanksgiving rabbit hunt.
Yeah, and then my hands were swollen up. And
yeah,
it's bad news.
Didn't you do that 2 years in a row?
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what I thought.
And
two years in a row you had issues with your hands and
yeah. And I didn't have a clue,
Yeah.
Thought it was the dry weather, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the second year it was really bad.
yeah.
And that's what really set it off, like, no, I'm having some sort of reaction to something.
All right, I'm debating on whether or not I should tell this story. Should I tell the outhouse story?
With a knife?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, well, I'll start with an outhouse story first, and then you can tell yours.
All right.
So, I forgot about this story. This is making fun of myself.
So we should preface this with, at our hunting cabin,
Yeah.
there is no indoor plumbing.
Yeah, no
No running water.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's an outhouse.
It's just an old, like, job site outhouse.
Yeah.
It's nothing fancy. It's a molded plastic outhouse that there's cracks in it.
You're probably going to offend someone by saying that's not fancy.
Probably. The guys down there think it's pretty fancy.
And just to kind of give the whole picture here, it's not a outhouse that we have pumped out. We dig a hole in the ground and have cut the bottom out of this outhouse and set the outhouse over top of the hole. And then, when the hole fills up, we dig another hole and
right. There's an old rudimentary map somewhere that has X marks the spot.
Supposedly.
Where the outhouse has been, so we don't strike gold ever.
Yeah.
I'm yet to see the map. That guy's down there claim to know. I don't know. I think once they're gone, we're going to have to switch sides of the cabin or something so we don't run into trouble.
Eventually, it just all turns back into dirt, I'm sure. I don't know.
But, so, I'm up. This was deer hunting. Up where our cabin is, there's an old cemetery up on the hill. It's they call it the old coon cemetery. So, it's just a tiny little... Down there, they have cemeteries just around, family cemetery on old properties or whatever. So it's up on the hill, and I'm up there deer hunting because I remember I was in a blaze orange jumpsuit type thing. Like, And it was, I don't know if it was opening day. It had to have been opening day, I think. I was up hunting the cemetery, though. And I was up there, and I had realized breakfast wasn't sitting with me. So it's like, I got to go to the bathroom. And I'm close enough to the cabin that I'd rather not crap in the woods if I didn't have to. I can get down to the outhouse.
Right.
So I thought. So I'm fighting it off like, well, no, I'm just going to it'll settle down. I'll just mind over matter, figure it out. Wait. It's like, it's starting to build. I think I'm going to have to go. Got to make a decision here. Am I going to poop in the woods or am I going to run down the hill to the outhouse? And it's cold. I'm like, I don't really want to, drop trow here in the woods if I don't have to. I'm going to go down to that outhouse. So I start going down the hill. Well, at this point, it's borderlining an emergency. So I'm rushing down the hill. And to preface the story, there was an older guy who no longer hunts with us. That was one of the original owners of the cabin, who hadn't even made it out to the woods yet. He was the guy who did the cooking. He was an old Army sergeant, or I don't even know what he was in the Army. But anyhow, he would always cook for us, military style, way more food than we could ever need. So he was cleaning up breakfast. He hadn't even made it out to the woods yet. And I come running, peeling down off the hill. And as I'm going, as soon as I hit like the road, which starts our cabin property, I start dropping gloves, taking my hat off, unzipping my, like I said, I had like a full suit on, unzipping it, pulling my arms out as I'm like making my way to the outhouse. And he comes walking out to go out in the woods hunting, and he sees me losing clothing as I go. I did make it. I did not crap my pants, but it was pretty close. So he always told that story about seeing me, big orange marshmallow guy, puffed up in clothes, coming peeling down off the hill, stripping clothes as I go, so I can get into the outhouse.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, so that's my outhouse story.
All right, so my outhouse story. Same outhouse, Little Blue. We were back at the cabin for lunch, as I recall, and I have this pocket knife that I have had for years. My wife bought it for me as a gift, and I've carried this pocket knife every day for years and years and years. And I had it where I always have it, clipped on my back pocket. And I was wearing, I think it was bibs. They weren't coveralls. I was wearing bibs. I think they were Carhartt bibs. And if I recall, I think they were hand-me-down Carhartt. I think they were Dad's hand-me-down Carhartt bibs. So lunchtime, need to use the outhouse, go out there, do my thing. Everything goes well. And as I'm standing up to exit the dwelling, I pull my bibs back up over my pants. I pulled my pants up first and did my buckle and everything. And then I pull my bibs up, and in doing that, it snagged the little pocket clip on my pocket knife, lifted it out of my pocket, at which point my pocket knife that I've carried for years and years and years falls into the outhouse hole. I'm pretty bummed about this, but that knife's gone. I'm not going in there to get it. I'm starting to think about how I'm going to explain this to my wife, because she bought me this knife, hoping she'll understand. And I come back in. I said, I lost my pocket knife out there in the outhouse. These guys are all bummed. Like, oh, man, you've carried that knife for years. Too bad we don't have a big magnet or something. Because I can see it. It's just laying down there on top of some paper.
I mean, it's past arm's length. You couldn't reach your hand down there. I mean, but yeah, you could see it, especially with shine a flashlight down there. You could see it.
Yeah. Too bad we don't have a big magnet. And one of the owners of the cabin goes, I got a big magnet right here on a rope. And I just remember thinking,
because the purpose,
why on earth do you have a big magnet on a rope? for situations such as this? Or what? Come to find out, the magnet on the rope is in case you drop the well bucket into the well, you can get the metal well bucket back out. But so I think, Jake, it was you. You took the magnet and fished my knife out of the hole in the outhouse. Because I have a picture of you standing there in your blaze orange coveralls holding this magnet up with my knife dangling from it. And so we got the knife back. We had silicone or whatever, gutting gloves, deer gutting gloves. So we took it and we bleached it, we boiled it, and like everything we could to, we had an old bottle of bleach down there, everything we could to sanitize, disinfect, sterilize this knife. As I recall, I don't even know if I carried it. I think I brought it home and boiled it and bleached it more. But yeah, I still have that knife and still carry it to this day. But yeah, lost it in the outhouse for a couple minutes. So we are 50 minutes into this. Do we want to wrap it up here, or do we have another story, another closing?
I got one more good
Jeff's
one.
got a story.
Okay, Jeff's going to wrap us up here.
So, as kids, we got to go hunting either the first opening day and then sometimes Tuesday morning.
Right.
Sometimes just opening day. And then we wouldn't get to hunt again until, maybe the weekend if Dad was going to come home from the cabin.
Right, because just for completeness' sake, our dad would take us down. We would miss school for opening day and sometimes Tuesday, and then Dad would drive us all the way home, which is a 3-hour drive.
Roughly.
Turn around and drive all the way back down to stay the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if this was that weekend, the weekend of gun season, or if it was when bonus gun started, the bonus weekend.
Yeah.
But I was going hunting, and in our backyard, and Dad was gonna stay home. So it's only 150 yards maybe from the house to where I was hunting. And so I'm out there hunting, and a doe walks up, and I shoot it.
Right.
So I go back up to the house to get Dad. Well, before I shot this deer, I had heard a gunshot in the distance. Well, here to come and find out, Mom and Dad were awake and in bed, and Mom heard that first gunshot and said, was that your son? Did he shoot? And
This
Dad's
was
like,
morning. We're talking.
Yeah,
this
this
was
is
a morning.
morning.
So
Yeah.
they hadn't gotten out of bed yet.
Yeah, they hadn't gotten out of bed. And they're like, was that your son? Did he shoot? And Dad's like, no, that was way too far away. And then a minute later, I saw my deer and I
Right.
shot. And Dad was like, now that was your son. Because, that was close, like right all the windows close.
Yeah.
And he was like, that was your son. And then Mom asked something along the lines of, you think he got it? And Dad said, well, they only shot once, so yeah, I think he got it, because he would have shot more if he missed.
Yeah, that's a little side note again. People listening don't know Jeff necessarily, but Jeff is not afraid to pull the trigger on deer.
Yeah.
He actually this year, didn't you? You shot a deer 3 times?
I shot a deer 3 times.
Yeah.
Because it didn't fall
'Cause
over.
It wasn't falling over. And
I
you hit it 3 times perfectly.
Yeah.
Right in the bread basket, right where you're supposed to, 3 times. Put 3 bullets right in there, right in a row.
Yeah. The first one, I wasn't sure if I had hit it. The second shot, I knew I hit it, but it was still running. So
Yeah.
I shot again, because I knew I had hit it, but I didn't know how well I hit it.
Right.
So I shot again, and the deer continued to run off.
Yeah.
I'm out of bullets, I have to reload. And I went and tracked it, and it didn't go too far, only another 10, 20 yards.
Right.
But when I got to it, it had 3 holes in it.
Yeah.
And it's like, I guess I hit it all 3 times.
Huh. Well, this has been fun. We'll have to do another one of these sometime. Lots more stories. But with that, hopefully, like we said, you guys are having a good Christmas, or you had a good Christmas and you spent time with your families. And maybe while you got time off work, you found time to get in the woods. So as always, follow us on Facebook. We're Ohio Huntsman on Facebook. We are Ohio Huntsman Podcast on Instagram. That's a good way to keep up to date with what we're doing, new episodes, that sort of thing. The best way to get new episodes is to make sure you're subscribed to the show. That way you'll get notified every time we post a new episode, which is every Tuesday. And with that, I think we're going to sign off. So thanks for listening.